I'm your host, Mark Yegge, and today we have on a good friend of mine. He is the Director of Transformation at Ministry of the Mind. He is also a master hypnotherapist. He's a subconscious programming expert, so he can get you on a visceral level, at a cellular level, to change your habits through the work that he does with the subconscious mind. And I've seen him do it. He is awesome at it. He's going to be speaking at our event coming up in January called Your Greatest Year. Please help me welcome Nicholas Spohn. Nicholas, welcome to the podcast. Let's talk about some really cool stuff that you've got going on, and also how people can actually take charge and change their life. Let's make that the concept of what we're talking about today. And I've got Light Circle back here in the background because Light Circle is it's my mastermind group for success-oriented, soulful individuals. And I'm excited about what we've got going on at Light Circle. And I know you are too, Nick. You've been a big part of the inspiration and helped me put this together. And you're going to be a speaker at our event. So this is going to be a podcast about how you can change your life if you want to change your life, but hopefully how you can create a beautiful life.
Mark, I want to say something first. I want to do a little commercial for you here. I just was thinking about this the other day. I'm so grateful to have someone like you in my life, someone who has such breadth and depth of knowledge, and to have a friend that, like, you and I go deep into so many different topics, and you stimulate so many creative processes in my mind that every conversation with you inspires me to do and be something more. And so I just want to say, for your audience, to get the opportunity to join Light Circle and the mastermind and to spend time with you, it's incredible. And it's been so awesome having a friend like you and traveling with you and really just building this friendship. So that's my little commercial for you.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Unsolicited commercial. I'll send you a check later.
Yeah, perfect.
But
I accept Bitcoin now. So
great. We actually met at a mastermind group that I had been involved with. We were both involved in several years ago, and it was in a different country. I think you and I have been probably like to 6 countries together or something like that. I'm not sure. But it's been a lot of fun. And really, to me, and I was just saying this before we went live here, is why don't people do this more, right? Why don't people live their life where they want to be living their life? That's the thing. That's one of the reasons I started Light Circle. And one of the reasons I do the Wealth Architect podcast is because we think we just want to be rich, right? We watch Ty Lopez driving around his Lamborghini, and we're like, we want to have that. But that's not what it's all about, right? Is there more to life than having a Lamborghini and a really nice car and a woman in a bikini from Sweden? What do you think?
I just heard this again the other day. It was a Bob Marley being interviewed, and someone says, "Are you a wealthy man?" He says, "What do you mean wealthy?" And the guy goes, "Well, do you have a lot of possessions? Do you have a lot of money?" He goes, "Oh, is that how you define wealth?" And it was just like no, of course not, right? Of course not. It's Mark, I've realized over the last year or two that there's really 2 things that are important. It's your health, your mental and physical health, and then the people in your life, you know?
Yeah.
And so to be the best version of yourself, to be able to connect deeply with the people in your life, I think those are the 2 most important things that there are. And if you've got money, but you don't have health or friends, it's worthless. It's absolutely worthless. Yeah.
So I've had the experience, I got a couple of years on you now, but I've had the experience of making a ton of money, millions of dollars, and having really nice houses on the water, bigger houses than I needed, 3,500 square foot for me and my fiance at the time. You know, it's like too big, too much. I had the nice, fast BMW. I have an airplane, you know, and then one day I just kind of looked around and I'm like, you know, all that stuff doesn't make you happy. And I tell this story a lot. I'm like, and I heard all this growing up, right? I heard, oh, you know, make all this money, but then I would hear gurus saying the money doesn't make you happy. And I was like, yeah, okay, easy for them to say they got the money. When I get the money, I won't be saying that. But man, they were right. They were right. It's all about balanced abundance, as we call it in Light Circle.
Yeah, I spent a few years, I got really good at, and you watched me through this process, buying real estate with nothing down. And I thought, you know, I'm going to accumulate all this wealth and all these things. And it was like a tether. It was like a burden. Then I had to manage all these properties, and some of them did really well, but it wasn't what fulfilled me and what lit me up. It wasn't like my main purpose. And so it just became a burden. And now I'm in this process of selling and just getting rid of all the things that are slowing me down from living my true purpose. You know, I talk a lot about open loops. We use open loops with hypnosis and NLP, and open loops are something that's unresolved. So the nervous system sees it as something unresolved, and it's what creates anxiety. So Mark, if you think about, like, if you're going to bed and there's a bat flying around your room, you're going to have anxiety. When you see the bat fly out the window, you're like, oh, that's resolved. I can go to sleep. But if you don't see the bat leave, you're not going to be able to sleep that night, right? And so what we do with all these possessions is we open up all these loops, and we have all these things to manage and all these things that pull our energy off. And I'm in this phase of like getting rid of just taking an axe and getting rid of all of the things that don't matter.
Yeah. I did that a few years ago, as you remember, right? Like I had all this stuff in Florida, and I just sold everything. I sold my pianos and my cars and my houses, and I just, sold everything. Got rid of every major possession except all my thousands of books that I still have.
I still have mine too.
They're all in boxes. Like, what's the point? Why do I have these books? I can have them all in the Kindle. Anyway, my point is, I came up with a quote, based on what you said there, and it's that every decision in life has maintenance and consequences, right? So if you decide that you want to buy a car, well, you're going to have to maintain the car. You have to buy insurance on the car. You have to change the oil. You have to make sure the car's clean. You got to wash it.
Registration.
Registration.
I just got a ticket because I didn't have my registration up to yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so we think we want all this stuff. We want the Chanel bag. We want the Rolex watch. Rolex has to be taken in every year or two to get tuned because it gets out of sync. And it's also not quartz run. It's run by that movement that moves around in your hand. Anyway, my point is everything has maintenance and consequences. And if you don't know what the maintenance and consequences are going in, you probably shouldn't own something like that. In fact, why should you own anything? You probably, there's a lot of stuff, right? You own a bunch of real estate and you see that it's not making you really happy. And wouldn't it be nice I rent, I'm in Thailand today, and I'm renting a really nice hotel room, and I'm getting ready to go to another island, and I'm going to stay at an incredible resort. And it's, pretty value oriented or frugal or however you want to look at it. But I'm going to be staying on a beach in a really, really nice resort for pennies of what I would be spending in Florida or North Carolina or Colorado or California to rent a place. I'm going off here. Anyway, so you do this hypnosis thing, right? And when people hear the word hypnosis, and I've seen you say that you're a hypnotist and a hypnotherapist in front of people, and I see what happens in people's brains, right? You're either fascinated, which most people are when they hear you say that, or they're like, yeah, that sounds really quacky. How do you bring those people over to your side, if that's even a goal of yours, to make them understand that hypnosis is not some quackery? We're all hypnotized every single day, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And, Mark, I'll start by saying this. I don't really know what hypnosis is. I don't really know how to define it. I don't know where general conversation stops and hypnosis starts. I know the principles of it. I know how it works, and I've seen how effective it is. But the simple way that I explain it, again, it's not comprehensive and it's not perfect, but this is the working definition I use for most people, is that hypnosis is two things. It's focus. What you focus on, you feel, and expectation. What you expect is generally what you manifest. And so as a hypnotist, even if I'm just talking to someone and I'm not, quote unquote, hypnotizing them or having their head drop or close their eyes, if I can shift their focus from what they don't want to what they do want and have them start making internal pictures and internal dialogue of what they want and better feelings, and then I can cue something and get them to expect something positive to happen or a positive feeling to come about as a result of something. If I can use focus and expectation, that's pretty much what hypnosis is. So if I say in a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers and you're going to go into a trance, well, it only works because they're expecting it to work. And so a lot of people will be like, oh, hypnosis doesn't work on me. Well, what they're doing, and this is how I frame it, I totally reframe it and turn it around on themselves. I say, what do you mean? You're hypnotizing yourself right now to not be hypnotized.
Yeah.
You're an incredible hypnotist. You've just hypnotized yourself to believe you can't be hypnotized. I'm no match for that. Like, you're going to hypnotize yourself better than I am. And by speaking, I can't be hypnotized. You're focusing on that. You're expecting that. And that's your experience. Does that make sense? Is that succinct enough?
So far, you're 2 for 2 on analogies. The bat thing flying around the room, and the person hypnotizing themselves when they speak out something out loud. So true, so true. So, what actually happens during a hypnotherapy session? You call it hypnosis. I call it hypnotherapy. I guess it's interchangeable. But what actually happens during why is it effective, right? Why is it more effective than laying on a couch for 10 years talking to your psychologist and telling them about your childhood? Why is it more effective than that? Or is it?
Hi, I'm Mark Yegge. Every new year brings hope, but have you ever made those resolutions and by February they're out the window? Yeah, me too. This coming January 13th and 14th, join me at Your Greatest Year. It's an online summit dedicated to setting you on a path to transformation, abundance, and growth. Make your resolutions a reality. Let's create magic together in 2024. Make 2024 your greatest year.
To register, go to 2024yourgreatestyear.com.
So it is more effective. One of the most important things we do as human is we make meaning. And I didn't know if I was going to get into this today, but I think we'll go into my whole theory on how the personality is formed in just a moment. But we make meaning. So we have events that happen to us. People tell us things. We have experiences and emotions as children and growing up, and we make a meaning about the type of person we are based on that. And so you may give a meaning to, I am worthless, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm poor, I'm not lovable. And that early childhood event, you may make that meaning. And what happens is that meaning generalizes into the rest of your life. This happens sometimes, right? So it may stay in that certain context, like, well, in intimate relationships, I'm not lovable, or it may generalize into every single area of your life. And that meaning is what shapes how the subconscious sees the world. And so with hypnosis or hypnotherapy, what we do is we go back to that event and we change the meaning that you gave it. We take the lessons from it, because there's always lessons in these things, right? Every setback or failure has the seed of an equal or greater opportunity. You know that from Napoleon Hill. And so all of these, quote unquote, traumatic events, they all have gifts hidden in them. And so if we can find the gifts, change the meaning of those events, then the subconscious processes the whole world differently after one session versus sitting on a couch and just rehashing the event over and over again. You're reliving it, but you're not changing the meaning.
Interesting. Okay. So it's all about meaning, right? I think Tony Robbins says we have to be masters of meaning, right?
Masters of meaning. That's it. So Mark, this is, I've actually never talked about this I've given one talk on it, but there's nothing on the internet about it. Do you want to know my theory about how our personalities are formed and how internal conflicts start? All right.
Would you guys like to hear it? Okay. I'd like to hear it. Go ahead.
This might be a little much, but here we go. So what happens is an early childhood event, let's say, you're abused or, this person is abused. And they make a meaning. I'm a victim. I'm weak. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. And so what happens, some people accept that meaning and they live their whole life based on that. But people like you and me, Mark, what we do, and your ambitious listeners, they say, you know what? Screw that meaning. I'm going to build myself into something that is the exact opposite of that. Right. So I'm going to be really strong. I'm going to be really influential. I'm going to be really smart. I'm going to achieve a lot of things. I'm going to be really tough. And so what happens is people like you and I, we go read all these books and go to seminars and we train and we visualize and we become the opposite of whatever that traumatic event was. You with me so far?
Yeah.
But what happens is and you've heard me talk about this, like parts, we have parts of ourselves. So the part of ourself that was traumatized and the part of ourself that has become, developed into who we want to be, they're now at odds. And so it's almost like, if you think about like if your little brother went to school and got beat up by a bully and he came home, and instead of being like, you know what, I'm going to go kick that bully's ass, you were like, you're weak, you're a loser. And it's almost like we do that to ourselves. And so this is why people will will go out and create a successful business, and then they'll like be pulled back, or they'll find themselves sabotaging it. And so they'll go through these cycles. I had a mixed martial arts coach. I think if you've heard me talk about him before, Pat Miletich. And, he was abused as a kid. And so his mind made a meaning, I'm weak. And instantly he goes, you know what? Forget that. I'm going to be the toughest man on the planet. Well, he builds himself into a world champion, right? But because he hasn't healed that initial part of him, now he like oscillates back and forth, and he's got to keep proving himself and keep proving how tough he is. And so he went through that for his whole career. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. The part where you're at odds is very interesting because, so often we think we're free from, some of that programming, right? But we're just software, right? We're hardware running around with a bunch of software. And if we haven't deleted the software, it's like a virus, right? Doesn't it show up back in our lives? And all of a sudden it pops up and Norton goes, oh, hey, you got something going on, delete it, right?
So I would challenge your audience to look at anywhere where they have compulsive behavior in their life, whether that's a bad habit, eating, drinking, smoking. That's generally covering up. It's a coping mechanism, so they don't have to look at the part of themselves that's injured. Or if you have to compulsively prove that you're tough, or compulsively be fit, or compulsively be successful, you're counteracting a part of you that's still wounded. Now, when you do this work, this hypnotherapy work, and you forgive yourself and you heal those parts and integrate them, you will still have all the skills you developed, and you'll still be that person. And you can still perform to the level that you developed yourself to perform, but you won't feel it as like this compulsive need to prove yourself. You'll be free. You'll be free to perform at a level that includes all of your past experiences, but you don't have to, your identity's not based on it anymore. Does that make sense?
But doesn't it come back up? Like, you go through a hypnotherapy session or 2 or 10 or whatever, and you deprogram this, or you bring your parts together, or however whatever technique you're going to use. Isn't it so powerful, that software, that it comes back up in our lives again and again, and it's hard to get rid of, or is that, am I off on that?
It depends. Sometimes there's layers. Sometimes, I've done it in minutes, and someone's like, oh, that thing it's gone. It really depends. And I'm continuously working on myself as well, because there's layers to our growth and development. Sometimes it takes a few sessions. Sometimes people don't really want to change also. They're used to it. It's a defense mechanism. But yes, absolutely, people can change in a single session when at a deep subconscious level, they make a new meaning.
Interesting. So that's really the key, is to reprogram the meaning. It's not just the words or the swing and watch in front of your eyes. It's actually what's going on unconsciously at the hypnotherapy level, because it means sleep, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're deprogramming some of that stuff that you get at a deeper level when, you're probably accessing it when you sleep. Who knows? I don't know. Interesting. Go ahead.
And often we bring those unconscious processes up to the surface to make them conscious. And that alone can start a person to change, when they're like, oh, I didn't realize I did this because of what my dad said to me when I was 6 years old. I had no idea. Now it's conscious. And even if I didn't do anything else, that person can start to make changes.
Got it. Interesting. All right, let's pivot here a little bit, because we could talk about this forever. I don't know if we're going to hypnotize anybody on the call right here on the podcast, but people can be exposed to you. You're launching. Let's talk about what you're doing first, and then we'll talk about your speaking role here at the Your Greatest Year event. But what do you got going on these days?
So, like you, I just set up a ministry called the Ministry of the Mind, and it's with one of my mentors, Freddie Jacquin, who's a really, really powerful hypnotherapist and hypnotherapy trainer. And our goal is to help people set themselves free by learning how to program and unprogram their subconscious mind. And so we've got a series of processes that we do with our clients that we're making into a course library. And then we do webinars and Zoom calls where we hypnotize groups of people. We did one 2 weeks ago. Your group can get the replay if they want, called the Blockbuster Protocol. And what that is, Mark, is I'll keep this brief, but basically, when we think about our problems, we represent them in a certain way in our mind. So we may picture them big and bright and up close. And what we did in this process is we just changed how people represent their problems in their subconscious mind. And in doing so, the way they feel about it changes, their actions around it change, and the insights on how to move through their problems change. And it happens instantly. So that was something we just did. And we have processes like that every few weeks that we're doing Zoom calls for our group on, and lots of exciting stuff coming.
Good. I'm excited to see it because I know you're growing and you're excited about what's going on, and it's gonna impact a lot of people. So I'm and by the way, kudos to you for doing the work that you've done. I've watched you over the last several years deprogram yourself from the real estate business, which you wanted. How many doors did you get up to? How many apartments and houses and duplexes and all that did you end up having?
Well, I bought 80 units with nothing down over the first year and a half of COVID. And so I think I got up to 130 doors. And, I did some wholesales and flips on top of that. But it was, Mark, it was a real identity. Like I had to shed a whole identity. Yes. And I'm still working through that. Because what happens is we box ourselves into, we believe we're a certain way.
Yeah.
And then when we're like, you know what, I'm so much more than that. You have to shed the neural network that limited you by that initial identity. And so that's something that I've definitely learned firsthand.
Well, what's the one reason you're not in that anymore? Other than the fact that I know you have a passion for hypnotherapy, and that's where your heart is. What's the one reason? Like it was too much work, or it didn't make you the money you thought, or you didn't have the right properties. What did you learn? Because I'd like to take away a learning from you from that experience.
Yeah. So the real estate gurus are not gonna maybe like this, but for
right.
One, it wasn't my purpose. It wasn't my heart's calling. For two, the tenants and the contractors in the city just made it unbearable. I mean, when a real estate guru is showing you the numbers on what a deal should look like, I was doing better deals than all of them. Like I had great cash flow. The numbers on paper were amazing. But what happens is if a tenant trashes your place and it's $5,000 or $10,000 to get it cleaned up, well, it takes you 2 or 3 years to make that cash flow back. If that happens to 1 or 2 of your properties a year, it's not a big deal. But when it happens to every property every 2 years, pretty soon you're not making any money. And I was pulling my hair out. And so that was the effect. Like I had several houses where I would have 3 dumpsters full. That's $1,500 just on the dumpsters. And so that started to happen. I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. Life is too short for this. It's not worth it. So here I am moving out of it happily.
I just had the last podcast I think we put out, maybe it was 2 before, but Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's partner, died last week at 99 years old. And he left behind a bunch of quotes. And one of the quotations that I did on the podcast, I just went through a bunch of his really great quotations, was beware of the guy that tells you that something's really easy and it's going to make you all this money. That's when you should probably turn around and walk the other way. And I know there's a lot of gurus out there that are buy real estate, do no money down and wholesale and flip, and you'll be able to have all these doors and you'll be a multimillionaire. And on paper you were and are. But at the end of the day, that's not what it's all about, because it's not as easy as everybody makes it think. Okay, so listen, I was just going to tell everybody here, and kudos to you, because you have really gone deep into hypnotherapy, subconscious programming, which I think you're one of the world's foremost experts on now. And you did it at a very accelerated pace. And I've seen how quickly you've integrated some of these principles, like the blockbuster, like the heart mirror, like some of these things that you're doing that are phenomenal and are life-changing. So congratulations for doing all that work. And I know you in your heart, you want to help people a lot. So fortunately, I got you to commit, thank you, to being one of our featured speakers at our Your Greatest Year event. It's on January 13th and 14th, everybody. So mark your calendars. It's a 2-day event online. It's an online virtual summit with 7 if you count me, awesome speakers who are going to be taking you through all the areas of your life. Nicholas Spohn here is going to be one of them. Nicholas, why don't you tell us a little bit about what they can expect? Give us a peek into what you're thinking.
Well, I don't like to plan too far ahead because I let my subconscious mind develop the plan on its own time. But the outcome is going to be to program in the person they want to be and the year that they want to have. So we're going to step into the feelings and the visions, and we're going to, I coined this term preform, like performance. So instead of a performance, we're going to do it ahead of time. So we're going to preform our year in our subconscious minds, and we're going to rehearse it, and we're going to step into it. We're going to see how we want to show up, what we want to create, what our priorities are. And we're going to live in that until the subconscious mind locks onto it like a heat-seeking missile locks onto a target. Because the subconscious mind has this, I've got one of my favorite books right here, Mark. You've heard me talk about this countlessly, Psycho-Cybernetics.
One of the best books ever.
Yeah, that our subconscious,
everybody, by Maxwell Maltz.
Our subconscious mind has this like servo mechanism that directs us towards the goal that we set for it. And again, most of the time that goal is our early childhood painful experiences. And so we just change it and we set a new goal for it. And it's a goal that we consciously decide through your process of setting ourselves up for the greatest year.
Great. I can't wait. We have so many cool people coming in doing this talk. We have a guy that used to be good friends with Zig Ziglar and Charlie Jones back in the day. He's an inspirational, motivating kind of guy, and he's really focusing on the DISC model. So I love that. We've got somebody who's going to be talking about how to integrate the ancient wisdom of chakras into what we're doing. And then you got me talking about wealth and time management, some of those Western things. You've got somebody else talking about purpose. It's going to be just a lot of fun. And I want everybody to be able to walk away from this event with a full plan of what they can expect from 2024 so they can make it your greatest year. One of the things that the reasons I've started this is that, the end of the year comes and we've eaten some extra cookies and cake and we're like, oh, I got to lose some weight. And then in January, we decide to join a gym. And we decide to lose 10 pounds or whatever it is. And studies show that by the end of the month of January, 85% of people have already abandoned their goals. And that's only 1/12 into the year. And so my goal is to make it so that it's a more holistic thing, right? If you want to lose weight, you're not going to be able to lose weight if you have a lousy family relationship, right? Or if you're being pulled at work and you haven't figured out how to balance work, because you're not going to find the time to work in the gym at your, in your calendar. So you've got to make all the things work in your life together. So that's what I'm excited about.
Well, Mark, you and I know willpower only gets you so far, right? I think if you use just willpower to change your diet on January 1st, you're going to make it till the second or third before that cake in the fridge starts calling your name and you just eat it all in one sitting, right? And so it's really putting this idea into the subconscious mind and locking it in. And I'll teach your audience how to do that. And so like I just did this 40-day super clean diet thing. And, I got to the end of 40 days and I was like, that was really easy. Like there was no willpower. And as soon as I hit the end of 40 days, I think I ate some things I wasn't eating before because I told my subconscious mind like 40 days, this is what we're doing. And as soon as it was over, it wanted to binge a little bit. And so it's just continually telling the subconscious mind what we want it to do, how we want it to perform. And I think that's the most important, least talked about thing that there is on this planet in order to maximize who you are as a human.
Yeah. I can't wait. Listen, we could talk about this for hours, but first of all, how do people find out a little bit more about you? And then we'll tell them how to find out a little bit more about Light Circle and your greatest year event. Go ahead.
So new website, we're still building, but ministryofthemind.org is up and running. And that blockbuster protocol we talked about, people could get access to. It's just ministryofthemind.org/blockbuster. I'm on social media as Spohn Trained. That's my last name, Spohn Trained. Spohn Trained on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all the places. So, but Ministry of the Mind is where we're focused now and what we're growing now.
Yeah, great. Good stuff. And guys, get more of Nicholas Spohn in your life because he's an inspiring guy. He's a motivating guy. He's a very accomplished guy in a lot of different fields. And he's gonna help change your life. I know it. And he's gonna help change our life at the Your Greatest Year event coming up January 13th and 14th. If you want to find out more about that, go to lightcircle.org/ Your Greatest Year, all in lower caps, Your Greatest Year. That'll take you right there, and you'll be able to register for that. Right now, it's at $197. We got early bird specials going on. So by the time this podcast comes out, I think we'll still have that going on. But once I get to my allotted number on my technology platform, I am done. And so I won't be able to manage that many more people after we get to that number. Thank you so much for being on. Maybe you're going to become a regular guest on this thing. We still have to have our economics fun debate that we used to joke about. We still got to do that. But thanks again, Nicholas, for being on. And everybody else who's listening, watching, remember what I always say, never give up your power in your health, your wealth, or your time. See you next time. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.